The books have been purchased, some have been read. Did these books live up to the hype? Find out on this week's episode of After the Poll. Hey, all my webheads out there, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, I am your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy. And today, guys, I'm bringing you another episode of After the Poll. That's right, guys, this is the video series where each week I share with you some of my most highly anticipated books that I was looking forward to reading and seeing if they live up to the hype. Now, this week, we've got a few extra books that I read, and we'll find out how they turned out. Are they keepers? Are they sleepers? Let's see what happens with it. But before we jump into this week's episode, guys, if you want to help support the channel, just go on to my home screen, hit that join button. It definitely takes a channel a long way, and I thank you. It's much appreciated. And now, guys, let's get started with this week's episode of After the Poll. So this week's episode is a little bit Halloween themed. We got some horror-like books that took place throughout some of the companies this week, and I wanted to bring that to you. So the first book that we're going to be talking about is Image's Hellcop. This is issue 1. Now, I think this book actually came out last week, and I bought this book kind of like on a whim. It kind of seemed kind of cool. I liked the cover of it and whatnot, but unfortunately, after reading this book, this is a title that I will not be continuing going forward. Some people might really enjoy this book, but for me, it just didn't hit the mark. I did think that the artwork was kind of interesting in it. The characters look kind of cool. Facial expressions were a little bit weird, at times, but it wasn't bad. I thought that the opening pages was like the best page in this whole thing. And I was like, oh, wow, this sounds like a lot of fun and I'm going to be hooked on this. Now, this book might be better as it goes along, but I just did not find myself interested with the characters. And it's about these cops that look like they travel through time and they're like in this hell where they deal with demons all the time. And again, I just did not find myself caring about the two main characters that we hear trying to capture these demons. I found this actually quite boring, and it took forever to tell the story. So I just am not seemed like I was wanting to be invested in this book after reading the first issue of this. So unfortunately, I will not be going forward with Hellcop. Book number 2 that we're talking about today is Phantom Starkiller issue 1, the 4th printing. Where was I in the first 3 printings of this book? I never even heard of this book before. What made me get this book? Well, it was for that awesome glow-in-the-dark cover that was offered this week, and I was like, wow, it's like an action figure variant, but the character glows in the dark. Same with the cover. The interior artwork is pretty good. It may not be like the best thing I've ever seen, but Phantom Starkiller is like this reject Taskmaster, or he's a cosmic Taskmaster. But when you read the story in the inside, I thought the story was actually pretty good because you wind up seeing the origin story of this character. And I thought that was kind of cool because he was like this bounty hunter that took care of jobs and whatnot. And then we wound up having somebody recruit him when he was basically dying in a jail cell. And now he's trying to retrieve this particular stone. So I thought it was cool. I thought the character was kind of witty. He was interesting. And he winds up, I guess, acquiring a partner in crime by the time you wind up getting to the end of the issue as well. And yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. It was like a mix between Star Wars, Marvel, Taskmaster, and just some cosmic book. It was interesting. And if they come out with an issue 2, or when issue 2 does come out, I'll probably check out the next one. Book number 3 that we're talking about, guys, today is Robin issue 7. This continues the whole story with Robin being on the Lazarus Island, or being in the Lazarus Tournament. This book is one of my favorite comic books from DC Comics right now. I loved seeing the battle. I love Damian's character being fleshed out a bit as he is learning to kind of make friends on this island and not be the complete dick dickhead that he is, that you've known him to be. So he's kind of developing a little bit of feelings, but at the same time, he's not taking any crap from anybody. The artwork is always outstanding in this book. I love the fight scenes. I love the characters, the way they look in here. It's very bright. It's very vibrant. I find myself attracted to this Respawn character. I want to know who he is. We almost get the revelation of him in this issue, but not quite. He gets like half of his face gets revealed. I'm like, oh man, who the heck is this guy? But check out this opening page of this book. So in this issue, we find out a lot about what happens in this island. We find out that this tournament has been started due to the reason of the Lazarus pits wanting to collect souls because something is growing within the island. And the winner does definitely get immortality in this book or in this world, right? But what happens is it looks like, the winner's going to have to do their bidding. And we found out the soul mother here is Damien's great grandmother. That's what we find out in this book. So that was kind of cool. The best thing though here is seeing, for me, the fight scenes. The only disappointment part of this book was that the fights didn't seem very long in this issue, and it seemed quite rushed, which was unfortunate because we were at the final four, and basically you see 2 pages of fighting, and that was about it. And especially when you had a fight scene between 2 major characters like Robin and Flatline here. But we wind up getting the result of that fight, and we wind up seeing who the final 2 fighters are in this tournament, and I am definitely looking forward to this. Now, where does this book go after this? Is this end at like issue 9 or 10, or does this continue to keep going? I don't remember if this was a mini series or a maxi series. Guys, let me know in the comments below, but this book is definitely a recommend. New #1 book that we're discussing this week is DC vs. Vampires. This is issue 1 of 12. Now, I wanted to try this out. I wanted to see if I would really like this story, if I'm going to, invest in 12 issues of this book. And after reading this first issue, I actually enjoyed it. Now, we had a lot of backstory in this first issue when it comes to the vampire, which his name is Andrew, I think it's Andrew Bennett, and it's from iVampire from that series. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that they brought him back. Now, I thought that the artwork wasn't the strongest in here. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. You definitely get a lot of red in this book, especially during the flashback scene. So anything that happened in a flashback, everything was red. And it was okay. I mean, it made it creative. It kind of fit the tone of the book, especially being that it's a vampire book. But in this first issue, we find Andrew Bennett going to the Hall of Justice, trying to seek help to let everybody know that the vampires are coming and that they're going to create this genocide, that they're going to take over the earth and there's going to be no more humans. And Andrew tries to tell Hal Jordan that not to trust anybody because you don't know who the vampire is actually going to be. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, you'll find out that someone is a vampire that shouldn't be, and you're kind of like, oh snap, I did not see that coming, which was really cool. And then the vampire leaves a note with Batman. By the time you get to the very end, he leaves a note with Batman, and he has this vial of blood, okay, that can possibly save the human race. And I thought that was a pretty cool ending as well. I didn't want to give you the complete spoiler here of who the vampire is that you didn't suspect in the issue. I wanted to leave that a surprise, but this was good. It was interesting. I enjoyed it, and I want to see what issue 2 has to offer and how they're going to keep this going for 12 issues to keep people, attached to this book. But I recommend it if you like vampire books. All right, so the next book that we're going to be talking about, keeping in the spirit of Halloween of things, is Task Force Z. This is issue 1. It just says death was just the beginning. That's what it's titled on the beginning. Interesting cover as you get to see the team, right? Jason Todd, you wind up seeing Arkham, you wind up seeing Bane, Man-Bat, and Mr. Bloom. I haven't seen Mr. Bloom in the longest time, but he's actually not dead in the comic. He's still very much alive in here. The artwork seems pretty good. I like the action scenes. I love the way the characters looked as zombies. That was a lot of fun in here. I thought the most solid character that was pretty badass looking was Man-Bat. He looked awesome as he was like eating characters and whatnot, like right here. That was a pretty sweet page. So the artwork was pretty satisfying in this book and pretty dark. So what did this book have to offer? What was this story about? So in this issue, you wind up seeing Jason Todd leading a group of like resurrected zombie-like characters that we know, right? And right in the beginning, they're going after Quiltman. But again, this team consisted of Bane, Man-Bat, Arkham, and who was it again? Mr. Bloom and whatnot. And you get the explanation of how they were brought to life. So they were brought back to life by these Lazarus pills or whatnot. So it's like you feed them to them and they stay contained. They're still zombies, but it curves like their hunger, their crave for meat and whatnot. And so now they're doing this job and they have to go after these crooks. And he gets the team back together, and you get to see kind of the inner workings of how everything, is working. And you kind of get to see a job that goes wrong in this issue. You wind up finding out that they have these Lazarus pills were being smuggled somehow, and then Mr. Freeze and his crew winds up going after Task Force C, and Jason Todd gets severely hurt in the book, and then you wind up getting like Arkham Knight winds up going after Jason Todd in the issue, and he's like going to eat him at the end. Now, when it comes to this story, I liked it, but it seemed a little bit more generic to me than the DC Vampire book. I feel like the DC Vampire book has a more concrete story than this one does. It just seems like kind of like this generic zombie book, and I just don't know where it's going to go. Will I continue it going forward? Yeah, I guess so, but I think the whole thing with zombies for me is kind of just lost its touch ever since, I got done reading The Walking Dead. I've kind of been zombied, burned out. And for a story to really get me excited, it really has to be A+ in my book. And for Task Force Z, this just really didn't hit the mark for me. But I'll check out the second issue to see if it really improves. But I just don't know where they can go with this, right? So the next book we'll be talking about is The Amazing SpiderMan. This is issue 77. So now this is where the true story arc begins, right? We got Kelly Thompson on the book that's writing this issue, and then we got Sarah Pichelli that does the artwork in this issue. And the artwork for me was okay. I mean, I liked it, but something about the colors seemed off, or just, I don't know. I just wasn't as into the artwork as I was in the previous issues. And not that the art is bad, but again, it's just like the coloring was just a little bit off or a little bit light. Just, I don't know, maybe it's just not my style. I guess that's what it comes to when it comes to that coloring. But Sarah Pichelli's artwork is actually pretty good. I mean, she's the one that does Saga. She's done many other things before. But enough about the art. Let's talk about this story. So in this issue, we wind up seeing kind of like the inner workings of the Beyond Corporation. So if you like that stuff, you're going to like the beginning of this issue. Kind of seeing what Ben is being held to, right? I mean, he's like under contractual agreement. They actually make it a thing being like, you need to be 100% committed to this cooperation. You could be the Spider-Man that you've always wanted to be, or you can be like half-assed type of Spider-Man. So you can see that Ben is being held under a microscope here. He's being, what's the word I'm actually looking for? He's being micromanaged, right? And so you get to see all that stuff. You get to see everything that's going on in the Beyond Corporation. And then he winds up seeing, his therapist, was it Kafka or whatever her name is? And, she says, yeah, you need some time off, go hang out with your girlfriend and all that other stuff. So that was kind of cool, right? I like that part of it. What I did also like about this issue is it still goes back to Mary Jane and Aunt May dealing with Peter in that coma. And I love the interactions between those two. I love how Aunt May is very resilient. She's going to try to find out what's going on, something to help, Peter. So I thought that was kind of cool. Aunt May actually has a purpose in this book. There's a plot point for her, which you really didn't see at all in Nick Spencer's entire run, right? So as we get towards the latter half of this issue, we wind up seeing Ben Reilly do battle against Morbius. So Morbius, another vampire guy, kind of in the week of Halloween, makes sense, right? You get to see them do a battle. We thought that Morbius was kind of on the straight and narrow path, but something has obviously gone really wrong. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, Morbius looks like he is sucking Ben Reilly's blood here, and is Ben Reilly going to become a vampire-like creature? So I thought that was actually kind of fun. I enjoyed this book. Now, wasn't as strong as issue 76 and 75? No. And again, this is where I'm really most interested in when it comes to the Amazing Spider-Man, to see how they're going to carry this book going forward until they get to issue 900, how these stories are going to be. But I did enjoy this, and looking forward to the next issue. Okay, so now we're probably talking about the most highly anticipated book of the week for a lot of you out there, and this one goes to the House of Slaughter. Now, this is issue 1, written by James Tynion, and the artwork is what you could expect when it comes to a Something is Killing the Children title. The characters look familiar. The artwork looks familiar. It looks really cool. I really enjoyed what I saw in this book, and I really enjoyed this issue. Now, if you're looking for Erica Slaughter, you're not going to really see her in this book. You actually see her for one panel. This book is about the house itself, and it's more of an Aaron story than anything on how he gets around in the house and what his relationships are. And by the time you wind up getting to the end, you find out what his personal relationship is to a character in this story. So I thought that was pretty cool. But you really find out his personality. You find out that he's kind of like the weaker of the members of the house. You got to see kind of the white bandana characters go after him. They kind of pick on him. They say he's a piece of crap, that he's going to not amount to anything, that they're going to kill him. And you get to see how Jessica and who is it? The other person, I forgot her name. Jessica and the other head person in charge, Cecilia, I think it is, kind of argue with each other on what's right and what's wrong for the students in the house. And then we get introduced to a brand new character in this book. So if this book has some value in the future, it's because of the brand new character by the name of Chase. He's transferred from another house, and Aaron is basically giving him a tour around the house, which seemed like probably the most comedic aspect of this issue at this point when you're reading it, because it's like, here's the cafeteria, here's the white bandana's room, don't go in there or they'll screw with you. Cafeteria has the worst food in the world. He's like, look at these people hanging upside down, don't mess with them. And then they wind up going snooping into places that they shouldn't be. And it was kind of cool seeing everything, their interactions and whatnot. And right away, they kind of develop this relationship with each other. And in the very last page, you wind up finding out that Aaron is actually hunting Chase. And you wind up finding out that this was the first man that he actually ever loved. I thought that was quite interesting, because at first you thought that maybe he truly loved, Erica Slaughter because he was soft on her. So maybe we get the representation that he is bi. That's what I'm guessing at when reading this issue. But this is obviously someone that he really cares about, and now he's forced to hunt him. So this could be a quite interesting story. Will we see some more Erica Slaughter in this book? I don't know, but this was kind of a cool tale, seeing them flash back from earlier days and then go to the present. So I think that's what we're going to see a lot of in this book. It's just flashbacks and then present day stuff. Who comes out on top? I don't know. We'll see. But I like this issue. I thought it was pretty good, and I look for the action to heat up. Now, I want to know in the comments below, how many copies of House of Slaughter did you guys buy? I think I got this cover, which was the actual main cover. Then I got a foil cover. Then I got a incentive cover. So I think I got like 4 covers all together. So just want to know in the comments below. But for a recommendation, I say definitely pick this book up, guys. Now, on a quick note, guys, I just wanted to let you know I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. My voice is not the way it usually is. I got this sore throat, it's scratchy, it's all mucusy and stuff. So thank you for bearing with me. But with that being said, moving on to the final book that we're talking about. Some of you read it last week, most of you didn't read it this week. But as of right now, out of the 26 books that I purchased this week, I have read about 9 books. And so far out of the 9 books, this is my favorite book of the week. And this goes to Gunslinger Spawn issue 1, written by Todd McFarlane. And the art is done by Brett Booth. And I am so happy that Todd McFarlane wound up picking Brett Booth as the artist in this book, because any page that you look at, it just seems so adventurous, right? It's just so action heavy, like even when there's nothing really going on, because the facial expressions on the characters are amazing. So just here, when you're just standing there and nothing is happening, and then you see this guy's expression right there, he's just like, oh my God, what's happening? I mean, everything. There's so much detail that goes into this book. It's just every single panel you want to look at extensively to not miss a single detail, right? So well done. So what is Gunslinger Spawn about? Well, Gunslinger has been thrusted into today's world, into the 21st century. He doesn't know anything. And I think that's what's great about this character. He's like a Clint Eastwood type of character. He doesn't talk very much, right? And but he doesn't know anything in this world. And so he has a motorcycle. He's driving the motorcycle, runs out of gas, and he comes across this kid by the name of Taylor Bartlett, I think his name was, and he asks for information. He's just like, what's wrong with my vehicle or my machine here? And he's like, dude, you're out of gas, you know? And he's like, well, what is gas? And he doesn't know anything. He's like, if you want to find out anything, go ahead and Google it. He's like, what's Google? He's like, it's on your phone. He's like, I don't have a phone. What's a phone? So like, Gunslinger kind of needs that partner in crime to help him get along in today's society, which I hope they stick with that, because that's what gives this book its not so dark moments, right? And that's what I could appreciate out of this. But in this issue, you wind up seeing these 2 groups come together to try to capture Gunslinger Spawn, and they're working to capture him, and they wind up breaking into the gas station when Gunslinger was, you know, hanging out with Taylor, and you get to see this crazy battle, and you get to see this action scenes where Spawn is using or Gunslinger is using like his daggers and these bullets and all kinds of stuff like that. Really awesome story. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, you see Gunslinger take his friend home, Taylor, and you know, Taylor says, well, my dad doesn't want me to come home unless I call him to come pick me up, but he takes him home anyway. And then you find out he's working with the bad guys, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. But then as you read the backup stories in this, which is very important, because it gives you the history of Gunslinger, kind of like where he came from and how he, you know, what his motives are and stuff. And we find out that his history with the Bartlett family winds up going very, very far, way back since 1860s, right? So I thought that was quite interesting on how he landed up in the 21st century dealing with the Bartlett kid, which I thought was awesome, man. And then you also get to learn about the weapons of Gunslinger as well, which was interesting as he takes, blood from his body or part of his soul to enchant his weapons so he can take on the bad guys. And he needs to do that because he is the weakest of the Spawn characters. And he relies on his brains as well to get him through sticky situations, which I thought was brilliant. And I really enjoyed that. And then you get to see a small tale about, how Spawn took care of a particular asshole in a bar while protecting the barkeeper's son. I thought that was a cool little tale as well. And so hopefully along down the road that they continue these flashbacks when it comes to Gunslinger to see where he came from and what he dealt with back in the 1800s. This was an amazing book, and there's something about this character. There's an appeal here that attracts me to this character. I don't know, because of how mysterious that he is. Maybe it's his personality, because when I hear him talk like with this enchanted voice, but he sounds like a Western guy. He's like, "Come here, boy," and he has like this echo or something. I don't know, but that's how I hear him in my head when I hear him speak. He's just a badass dude, and I love this book. So if you were on the fence about paying $6 for this first issue, I say go out there and buy it. You don't even need to be a Spawn fan and nor the lore of Spawn really to understand who Gunslinger is. This was just very entertaining, and I can't wait for the next issue. All right, Webhead, so there you have it. There are the books that I was highly anticipating and read first this week. You saw my thoughts on some of these books. Now I want to know in the comments below what you thought of the titles that you read so far. And if you have any suggestions that you want me to add to this show, let me know in the comments below as well. I always appreciate the feedback. So as always, guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that bell. And guys, if you like the content, I'll leave you more content right here, especially my newest comic book haul. So until next time, guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, and most importantly, keep reading those comic books. I'll see you real soon, guys. Take care. Bye.